Magazine says the laughs and riffs come fast and furious on Hybrid Vigor. The Atlantic City Press says Webb Wilder out-rocks the Rolling Stones. The Chicago Tribune says it's glorious rock and roll for the misanthrope in all of us. The New York Daily News says call it anything, it sounds great, it's here, and it's spectacular.
Saw the ad in the paper, said the hell with it all. Took a gig with the circus as the human cannonball.
Webb Wilder's the last of the full-grown men, the last of the boarding house people. A man who was never a child, will never have children. A guy who knows every plate, lunch, joint, and thrift shop in town. Webb Wilder, idol of idle youth, is an electrifying artist.
Webb Wilder, a.k.a. John McMurray, is also an English graduate of the University of Southern Mississippi. So how did this Hattiesburg, Mississippi native, who admits he's never read William Faulkner, grow up to be Webb Wilder?
It's a blessing and a curse, but somebody's got to do it. Maybe a small boy, possessed of the mind of a full-grown man, walked into a Gibson's discount center at an early age, and just maybe he bought a Beatle album, and just maybe he grew up to be Webb Wilder, last of the full-grown men.
Still confused? Don't worry, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that Webb Wilder is fast becoming one of the top bands in the country, and his latest album proves it.
Hybrid vigor is a term that comes from sort of the animal husbandry and botanical sciences, whereby two dissimilar but purebred strains produce a unique and stronger third. As a result, it came out a hybrid strain of rock and roll that is what rock and roll should be, a hybrid strain. I think it's important that music should rock and roll.
And as if those words of wisdom weren't enough, Webb has advice for aspiring rock and rollers.
Don't take any wooden nickels. Don't forget to rock and roll. Words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to one another.
Stephen Rouse for News 7.
Okay.
That way I don't have to remember.
Yeah, okay. Insubordination in the ranks, sir. Actually, the less people in the chain of communication, probably the better.
On the road. Right. So, who is Webb Wilder?
Webb Wilder is the last of the full-grown men, the last of the boarding house people. A man who was never a child, will never have children. A guy who knows every plate, lunch, joint, and thrift shop in town. A man who was never a child, will never have children. Webb Wilder, idol of idle youth, is an electrifying artist.
What does Webb Wilder do?
Webb Wilder rides in a van, plays guitar, sings, does interviews, sleeps a few hours every night, and plays rock and roll music, you know.
Why do you do this?
It's a blessing and a curse, John. I'm glad you asked me that, or rather Sid. Jesus, slipped there, didn't I? It's a blessing and a curse, but somebody's got to do it. Maybe a small boy, possessed of the mind of a full-grown man, walked into a Gibson's discount center at an early age, and just maybe he bought a Beatle album, and just maybe he grew up to be Webb Wilder, last of the full-grown men.
If it came from Nashville, where did he come from?
Hattiesburg, Mississippi, right outside of the original settlement of Richburg, Mississippi, where the last bare-knuckle fight of all time between Sullivan and Kilrain was fought. Hattiesburg, Mississippi being the birthplace of rock and roll.
What about your educational background?
Well, it began with Mrs. Hemmeter's kindergarten, Joyland Kindergarten, and F.B. Woodley Elementary School, and W.I. Timms Junior High, and S.H. Blair High School, which was traditionally known as Hattiesburg High, and then Hardy High, University of Southern Mississippi, University of Texas, and the George Peabody College for Teachers.
How does a Hub City boy get to Nashville?
Well, at the time, what you had to do was go up there to 49 and get on the interstate towards Laurel and head up through all that weird detour business they had in Birmingham, which they finally cleared up, and just go right on up through Birmingham and Franklin, Tennessee, and in Nashville. And Nashville has really changed a lot, but it was really quite an experience for me, and I always wanted to return, although Austin, Texas really beckoned in between, and I spent a lot of time out there, and a lot of my compatriots are still out there.
What's next for Webb Wilder?
Touring. We're going to go to Europe. We'll be in California with NRBQ. We'll be everywhere in between with Melissa Etheridge, and maybe after we get back from Europe, after that, we can settle down to the business of making another electrifying audio disc for you, the loving public.
Once you conquer all that, do you have any other kinds of plans?
Rest.
Okay. For the record, give us the credo.
Work hard, rock hard, eat hard, sleep hard, grow big, wear glasses if you need them.
Steve, we need anything else? Good shout out.
A little bit about the album.
Yeah. Do say what you will about the album.
Well, we went in to record Hybrid Vigor, a sizzling, simmering potpourri of simmering, sizzling sides for Island Records, and we thought that, you know, the original rock and roll wasn't trying to be a pure this or that. It was, it's been called many things. It was the happy, laughing, illegitimate child of country, western, and rhythm and blues, white man's rhythm and blues, country and western with the breaks off, what have you. And, you know, Elvis wasn't a purist, Hank Williams wasn't a purist, the Beatles certainly weren't purists, and this jumbled up bunch of influences of American music, some of which in my generation were given back to us by British musicians, all goes to renew rock and roll's original vigor. Hybrid vigor is a term that comes from sort of the animal husbandry and botanical sciences, whereby two dissimilar but purebred strains produce a unique and stronger third. So that's kind of what we were trying to do, is get a lot of our influences in there, and that made it a hybrid type of music, we felt like, and bringing some guests to the party, as it were, made it a hybrid kind of thing too, which made it vigorous. We used Hugh Garraway, a Hattiesburg native, on sax on some songs, and David Grissom, who plays with Joe Ely, on guitar on one song, and Willie Weeks, who played on It's Only Rock and Roll by the Rolling Stones on bass on one song, and of course all our personnel on darn near everything. And as a result, it came out, you know, being sort of, we feel like a hybrid strain of rock and roll that is what rock and roll should be, a hybrid strain. And I think it's important that music should rock and roll. So check it out, Hybrid Vigor by Webb Wilder the Man and Webb Wilder the Band on the Island Entertainment label. Current single, Hittin' Where It Hurts.
How does Swampadelic and Uneasy Listening fit in?
Uneasy Listening goes back a ways. Bobby Field is our producer, and he's a Hattiesburg native also, and he and I grew up together down there, and he used to be in a band called the Howlers. And when he was in the Howlers, I think he thought of the term uneasy listening. Hugh Garraway was also in that band. And Swampadelic, I think, kind of combines the 60s side of our music with the even more earthy, rootsy southern side. They're all just really attempts to satisfy that person who wants to know what we call our music, and we tell them rock and roll, and they don't seem to be satisfied, and you kind of feed them a little more data. Categories are a drag, but it's better to be categorized than to be categorized incorrectly. So we've sort of stayed up late at night trying to figure that out. The Border Patrol is always after you on that, you know.
Anything else you want to add?
Don't take any wooden nickels. Don't forget to rock and roll. In the words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to one another.
I think that.
That's good. I'm sorry, wait. I just got to tell you, say something. Is that shadow on the brim?
You know what I should have done? Believe it or not, I have some glasses identical to this in my briefcase that have no lenses. We could have used those.
You're fine.
Well, I mean, I was just making sure.
Standpoint.
Okay.
So I'm in charge of the line. Get back there and he'll flog me.
If it's a problem, I'll blame
It's Bruce's fault.
Is Bud Kirkpatrick still popping the whip around there?
No.
Tell him
He's
hello.
on the neutral system diet now.
Has he lost a lot of weight?
He just started.
Well, if you guys could edit that to where more of the character of Webb Wilder and less of John McMurray comes out, and in some of those questions, it's really impossible to stay in character and answer them, but so you can, you know, you'll have to use it. But just try to, that's what I told MTV, and they did a pretty good job of it.
I'll send you a copy.
Super. Great. I really appreciate the brochures. I can send one to Mom now. Roger sent me the first one. I don't know if I ever wrote him and thanked him, but please tell him thank you. Hello.